As we've been making our way through the Ten Commandments, I've had a singular goal, and that is to use God's law to expose all of us in a much deeper, much more profound way than perhaps we've ever been exposed before. And then to preach Christ's finished work on behalf of lawbreakers like us. That in very specific ways, Jesus fulfilled the law on our behalf, which he tells us back in the Sermon on the Mount, that he did not come to abolish the law. He came to fulfill the law because we couldn't do it. And God requires perfection in order for people like you and me to be in relationship with him. And we're not good at perfect. Jesus was good at perfect. He was perfect at being perfect. And therefore, the Ten Commandments are first a wall that we crash into so that we can see just how weak and frail and incapable we are. And then the Ten Commandments show us that Jesus really is the one who came to do for us what we could never do for ourselves. So even when it comes to this particular commandment, it would be easy to think that this is simply a prohibition against lying. And as we've made our way through the Ten Commandments, what we have seen is that what it may seem like on the surface, don't murder, don't commit adultery, those sorts of things, these things may seem simpler to accomplish than they actually are. And this is another one of those commandments that if we look at it without diving deeply into it, we might be able, or we might conclude that this commandment is simply a prohibition against lying. Just don't lie. That's all there is to it. Don't lie. Now, I was born a liar, and so were you. I grew up lying through my teeth. I can remember the earliest moments of my lying career. I can remember specifically one time standing in front of the mirror when I was just a little boy and finding a pair of scissors just sitting on the bathroom counter, and deciding that I would cut my hair. And I'll never forget this. We were in North Carolina visiting my grandparents at the time, and I'm in the bathroom, and you know how little kids are. Has any little kid never cut their hair? Every little kid I know has cut their hair at some point, and I too cut my hair when I was small. And so I walked out, and I thought that I would make my hair kind of spiky on top, and in order to do that, I had to cut this top part short, but I wasn't really good at this, and so I ended up cutting just the front. And so basically my hairline went like this, and then it went up like this and over, and I walked out of the bathroom thinking it looked decent. My mom knew immediately that I had cut my hair. It was obvious that I had cut my hair, and so she looked at me and asked the stupidest question ever asked: "Did you cut your hair?" And I said, no. The way she asked, the way she asked indicated that if I said yes, I would get in trouble. So I wasn't stupid, or maybe I was at the time, so I just said, of course not, Mama. Why would you think I did that? And she said, "You're lying to me." And I said, "No, I'm not lying." It was so obvious. The evidence was literally on my face. And I was absolutely compelled to keep lying and say, "No, I didn't cut my hair." And we had a long talk about lying and how lying is dangerous and lying will get you in trouble and all of that stuff. That didn't end my lying career, my career in lying at all. I continued to lie, but just like we looked at a couple weeks ago when we talked about stealing, I'm pretty sure that this is one of those commandments that every single person in this room can admit to being guilty of. I don't think there's anybody in this room who would say, "Oh, this is one I've kept perfectly since the time I was small." I think every single one of us can admit that we have lied or told a lie, even a little white lie, at some point in time in our lives. But I think some of us might make the mistake of concluding that our lying days are over. We used to lie when we were small. We used to lie when we were teenagers. We may have even told a few fairly significant lies as adults, but we're not liars anymore. Fact of the matter is, we are, every single one of us, and this commandment is not simply a prohibition against lying, it's actually much, much more than that. Not long ago, I was reading one writer who I think well articulated the depth of the demands to this commandment, the 9th commandment. He said, here are just a couple of things that this commandment instructs us to do. God's will is that I never give false testimony against anyone. That includes gossip, slander, bending of truth when it comes to our reports or thoughts about another person. I twist no one's words. I do not join in condemning anyone without a hearing or without a just cause. Rather, in court and everywhere else, I should avoid lying and deceit of every kind. I should love the truth. This is the positive part of what this commandment demands. I should love the truth. I should speak the truth candidly. I should openly acknowledge the truth. I should do what I can to guard and advance my neighbor's good name. And then he goes on to say this. We are prone to reinterpret every story to benefit ourselves and purposefully reconstruct the facts to make our point. How easy it is to assume the worst about those I don't like or don't know, especially people who seem bigger than me, athletes, politicians, celebrities, or people who are unlike me, people of different faith, different color, different politics, or people who are far from me in physical or relational distance. How challenging it can be in a pressure-packed moment to speak the truth candidly and openly acknowledge it. How unpopular and difficult it is to guard and advance my neighbor's good name. In our digital age of pervasive punditry, instant analysis, and perpetual outrage, surely the breach of the 9th commandment is one of our besetting sins. Now, when you start thinking about this seemingly simple and easy to keep commandment in this kind of way, we begin to feel ourselves being exposed. A couple weeks ago, I made the point that we are inescapably addicted to thievery. And this week, I want to make the point that we are inescapably addicted to lying. We hide the truth. We bend the truth. And even when we speak the truth, we can't help but do so with mixed motives. I mean, sometimes we tell the truth out of revenge. If I expose this person, I'll be able to get them back. I mean, we simplistically think that all we have to do is tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and we are successfully keeping this command, but we're not. Even when we tell the truth, when we speak the truth, we do so with mixed motives. Other times we tell the truth because it will benefit our cause and diminish another person's cause. We use truth to empower ourselves. This is embarrassing to admit, but I'm pretty sure that this is probably true of most people in here. I once knew something bad about someone that I considered to be a threat to me. This person I considered to be a threat to me in one way, shape, or form, and I knew something bad about this person, and I kept it to myself, not because I wanted to protect that person, but because I wanted to be able to use it as leverage if I ever needed to. Okay? So watch out. Watch what you tell me, okay? I'll do it to you too. I'm just kidding. Now, it's not as simple as I didn't lie and I'm just telling the truth. You know, Christian people can be very guilty of this. I'm just telling the truth. It's just the truth. I'm standing on the truth. I'm going to tell the truth. But depending on your motives, which are always mixed because you're a sinner, simply telling the truth is not a keeping of this commandment. This command doesn't simply require telling the truth and never lying on the outside. It also requires loving the truth on the inside and always telling the truth with pure and loving motives. Now, once we start thinking about it in that light, we start to realize, okay, maybe I'm not doing as good of a job as I thought I was in keeping this commandment. So it's not a hard case to make that we are all guilty of breaking the 9th commandment, that we are all liars. It's not a difficult case to make that we're liars, all of us. Whether we're lying on the outside, just telling a blatant untruth, or whether we're hiding the truth, bending the truth, keeping the truth to ourselves, manipulating the truth to benefit ourselves, speaking the truth with mixed motives out of hurt or to get revenge or leverage or whatever the case may be, it's not a difficult case to make that we are all guilty of breaking the 9th commandment. But the deeper question is this: why do we do it? Okay, that we do it, I think, is fairly obvious and is not a difficult case to make. But the deeper question is, why do we do it? Why do we bend the truth? Why do we lie to ourselves and other people? Why do we hide the truth? Why are we so resistant to the truth? You see, we lie to ourselves and we lie to others because, in the infamous words of Jack Nicholson, we can't handle the truth. Okay? We can't handle the truth. There is not one person alive that isn't hiding truth about themselves for fear that they would lose love and approval. Not one. Okay, I mean, there is not one person alive who is not hiding truth about themselves for fear that if they told the truth about themselves, they would lose love. They would lose approval. Our deepest longing is for love and approval. And so we work to conceal the worst parts about us, and we manufacture a lovable self. We put our best foot forward. I mean, we're all, if not being a liar requires us to be wholly, deeply, and wide-rangingly truthful, we're all liars. I mean, every single one of us is concealing at least bad parts about ourselves, because we're just so afraid that if this person really knew what was going on inside my heart, if this person could really get inside my head, if the people around me really knew my secrets, they would run. Steve Brown has said on numerous occasions, and he has said it here as well, if you knew the truth about me, you wouldn't be listening to my sermon right now. And then he goes on to say, and if I knew the truth about you, I wouldn't want to be your pastor. I mean, the fact is that we're good at this. We're good at putting our best foot forward because we're so afraid to lose the love and approval that we crave. And so we manufacture a lovable self. None of us want to be exposed. We all have secrets and things about us that we don't want anyone to know about. And the reason we don't want anyone to know about it is because we're afraid people would reject us if they knew. And you know what? They would. They would. You know, I mean, there are, no matter how hard I tried, no matter how hard you tried, there are things about us that if it was exposed to other people, that, I mean, we would be shunned, rejected. I mean, I've said this before, but if you don't believe that to be true about you, just imagine for a moment if all of your thoughts and words and deeds and every little thing that went through your heart just in the past 48 hours were itemized and broadcasted on the two screens next to me with your face and name. Okay, this is what so-and-so thought. This is what Tullian thought and felt and did and failed to do over the last 48 hours. And it's just an itemized list, okay? It would be, in my case, it would just be a scrolling screen, all right? Just scrolling, okay? In your case, too, it'd be a scrolling screen. Some of you guys would be scrolling for like hours, okay? But I mean, think about it. What about if all of your past secrets were exposed? What if the people around you, what if the people around you really, really knew in your worst moments what you thought about them? The thoughts that have gone through your mind. Lust, greed, selfishness, anger, rage, jealousy, self-righteousness, all of those things. What if all of that stuff was exposed? Human beings just don't have the capacity to absorb that stuff. And so we walk away from it. We tend to walk away from it. Just none of us want to be exposed. We're just so afraid that if people knew the truth about us, they would reject us. And like I said, they probably would. And rejection equals death. It's like dying. For those of you who have ever felt rejection in one way, shape, or form, you know what it feels like. It feels like death. Rejection is a living nightmare. And so we do everything we can to avoid it by manufacturing this lovable self. And so lying, why do we do it? Because lying seems to be a promising self-salvation project. All we have to do is put our best foot forward and never let them see the truth about us, and we'll have the love and approval that we crave, that we need. But what if I were to tell you that God knows the truth about you? He knows your secrets. He knows your deepest, darkest secrets, and He loves you anyway. That there is one who knows you in the deepest, darkest, grossest, most profound ways. And He makes a promise to never leave you, to never forsake you. What if I were to tell you that the approval that you crave, you already possess because there was one who came to be truth for you? It's what Jesus tells us in John 14:6. I am the way, I am the truth. He didn't just come to tell the truth. He is the truth. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. You see, this is the temptation. I was thinking about this yesterday as I was preparing. Again, I didn't start preparing yesterday, okay? But as I was finalizing my preparations, all right, I was thinking about this. The temptation is to walk away from a sermon like this and think, okay, I get it. Lying is a useless self-salvation project. The answer to that is to tell the truth. So instead of lying to find life, I will tell the truth to find life. That's the temptation. Lying is bad. It's a dead end. So I won't lie. Finding life and freedom through lying doesn't work. I get it, Pastor. I won't do that anymore. So this is what I'll do. I'll find life and freedom by telling the truth. Okay, there are two problems with that. Number one, you can't do it. As I just said, even when you tell the truth, even when you speak the truth to yourself, even when you speak the truth to other people, you're still doing it with mixed motives. You're never just simply telling the truth or speaking the truth or pursuing the truth flawlessly, perfectly. You're never doing that, number one. Number two, the reason that's a problem and wrong is because that's moralism. It's still locating your hope for freedom in life and life in you and something you do. Lying is a dead end. I can't find salvation there. I know what I'll do. I'll shift over here. Now I'll tell the truth. If I tell the truth and stick to the truth, then I can save myself. It's not working well over here, so I'll go try it over here. You see, the answer is not tell the truth instead of a lie. The answer is Jesus, who is truth for you. All of the truth that God requires is embodied in Jesus, who gave himself for us so that we could stand before God clothed in nothing but truth. The answer is not, don't listen to this and go, and this is the way most sermons would go. when it comes to the 9th commandment. Lying is bad, it's destructive to you, and it's destructive to those around you. It's bad. We know that. The answer that they then give is, so be a truth teller. That's your hope. Find hope and life and freedom by being a truth teller. That's where you can find salvation. But that's moralism. It's still turning you into yourself. Our answer is not, our hope is not ultimately in, I'm going to tell the truth instead of telling a lie. Our hope is ultimately anchored in Jesus, who is the truth for us. You see, our hope is not in the avoidance of lying or the telling of truth. Our hope is in a God who loves and rescues liars, because liars are all that there are. That's our hope. And this is where lots of Christians and people inside the church get it wrong, and they transform the message of substitution, which is the gospel, that Jesus came to do for us what we could never do for ourselves. So we fix our eyes on Christ, the author and finisher of our faith. He is our hope. He is our salvation. He is our life. And it gets shifted toward, okay, here's just another sort of moralistic, divine self-help tool. Don't tell a lie, that's bad. Tell the truth. You can get that stuff from Tony Robbins, okay? I mean, you literally, you can get that stuff from just a motivational speaker. Don't lie, tell the truth. And then let's close in prayer. We all know how important truth is, tell the truth. Let's close in prayer. That's where most sermons would end, without pointing you away from yourself, an inescapable liar, to the one who came to be truth on your behalf, so that all of the truth that God requires, the perfect truth that God requires, is accomplished and embodied in Jesus and given to you, so that now your relationship with God is not based on your sorry ability to tell the truth, but is based on Jesus, who stood in the gap and was truth for you on your behalf. See, now, once this grips your heart, now this does have on the ground effects, okay, in your life and my life. Because once this grips your heart, that your hope is not in stop lying and be a truth teller, but your hope is in Jesus, who was the truth for you. Once this grips your heart and you begin to realize that all the approval you long for is already yours because of what Jesus has done for you, the pressure to lie begins to wear off. Okay, this is ironic. You actually begin to become a person of truth because Jesus was truth for you. And now the pressure to lie, because you've got to save yourself by manufacturing a lovable self. You've got to pretend, you've got to hide, you've got to wear masks because, love and approval are waiting for you. But in order for you to get it, you have to get people to love you. You have to get people to approve of you by being a certain way and by becoming something. By looking a certain way, by accomplishing certain things. Once you understand that all of the love and all of the approval that you crave, you already possess because Jesus was truth for you, and now God accepts you and loves you and approves of you fully and finally because of what Jesus has done, the pressure to keep lying begins to wear off. You're not as worried about what other people think of you because you know you already have God's approval. You're not worried as much about what other people think of you, and so you begin lying less and telling the truth more. Once you realize that you don't have to pretend to be something you're not in order to get the love you crave because God loves you unconditionally, the burden to pretend begins to be lifted. And you're messed up and you're broken and you're a sinner, and you're like Paul in Romans 7, the good I want to do I don't do. So I'm not claiming that you're going to arrive at some point in your life here and now as a broken down sinner where you are flawlessly living in truth. I'm not saying that. You will struggle with gaining approval and gaining love and gaining acceptance for the rest of your life. Until you die or Jesus comes back, you're going to struggle with that. You're going to struggle with that. Knowing that you're going to struggle with that helps you as you struggle with that. But the fact of the matter is, once the good news of the gospel that you are loved and accepted forever, even though God knows all of your dirty, rotten secrets, once that grips you, once that kind of unconditional love grips you, and now you're not as worried about what other people think of you in order to get love and approval, because you already have God's love and God's approval because of what Jesus has done for you, the pressure to pretend begins to wane. You begin to feel more and more the freedom that Jesus paid so dearly to secure for you. You start to become more honest with yourself and others. You wear masks less and less. You finally start feeling the freedom to open up about yourself just a little bit more. You're not as concerned with needing to put your best foot forward if your life is going to be worthwhile. If you're going to find meaning in those sorts of things. You're not as afraid to let people see your weaknesses and to admit that you're wrong. You're just not as afraid. You know, the pressure to pretend to always be strong, to always be on top of things, to always be in control. You know you're not. But the pressure to convince yourself and other people that you are makes life heavy. It makes life burdensome. But once this begins to grip you, you don't worry as much about what other people think. You're not as concerned. You're just not as concerned with having to be right, having to win, having to be strong. You don't have to wear yourself out jockeying for position and trying to prove yourself. You see, because we are forever loved and approved by God, we have nothing to prove or protect. We can stop pretending. We can be real. We have nothing to lose because everything we need in Christ we have. So Brennan Manning puts it this way: losing our illusions is difficult because illusions are the stuff we live by. I mean, we have to convince ourselves in order to survive, it feels like, we have to convince ourselves that we're better than we are. We have to convince ourselves that we're not as messed up as we are. And so we not only lie to other people, but we lie to ourselves. And then we begin believing those lies. And so Manning says, losing our illusions is difficult because illusions are the stuff that we live by. But, he goes on to say, God wants us to be free. So in love, he strips away those falsehoods because it is better to live naked in truth than clothed in fantasy. There is great freedom in knowing the truth about yourself, embracing the truth about yourself. I said a number of weeks ago that it's a lie to think that we have to believe good about ourselves if we're going to feel good about ourselves. First of all, the goal has never been to feel good about yourself, ever. Okay, I mean, the only people who feel good about themselves are people who are lying to themselves. I mean, seriously. If the only people who really feel good about themselves are people who have deceived themselves into believing that the truth about them is not true. Because when we read the Bible and we find ourselves being described by God, our maker, our creator, when we read the Bible and we find things that say the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. There is no one who seeks God, no, not one. I mean, our words kill. Our heart is bad. The things that we think condemn us. The way that we treat other people make us deserving of hell. Okay, I mean, when we read those things in the Bible and we hear ourselves described, And we choose not to believe those things because to believe those things would just make life miserable. The fact of the matter is, it's only when we believe those things about ourselves that life becomes livable and light. Because now we're not having to prove ourselves. We're not having to believe something about ourselves that's not true. We're free to embrace our messed upness and to say it's okay that we're not okay, because my okayness has never ever been the issue. The issue has always been God who saves messed up people. That has always been the issue. Ever since Genesis chapter 3, the message of the Bible has always been a loving God who meets our guilt with his grace, a merciful God who meets our failure with his forgiveness. That is the storyline of the Bible. And so there is great freedom, tremendous freedom, unbelievable liberation in believing and embracing the fact that we're not good. We are adulterers and liars and thieves and idolaters. We are these things. But God has come to do for us in the person of Jesus what we could never do for ourselves. And the truth of the matter is that Jesus became a liar so that we as liars could be liberated to live in truth. He became sin for us so that we could become the righteousness of God. The truth is, Jesus became a liar so that we as liars could begin living in the truth about ourselves, which, as I said, changes everything. I mean, we've been bombarded with this idea that high self-esteem is necessary in order to be happy, in order to live a meaningful life. We have to have high self-esteem in order to feel like we matter. The fact of the matter is, what we need more than anything is God esteem, gospel esteem, grace esteem. We need to believe wholeheartedly that it is God who comes to do for broken people like you, for messed up people like me, what we could never do for ourselves. And once we get that, once God gifts us the gift of faith and we believe that there is one who stood in our place, condemned, once we believe that, we are free to admit what Brennan Manning calls our shadow side. Now, I'm not suggesting that you walk out of here and you start broadcasting all of your deep, dark, sick secrets to everybody around you, okay? And then when everybody runs away from you, crying, screaming, running for the hills, you come back to me and say, why'd you tell me to do that? Don't do that, okay? I mean, I'm not telling you that. Steve Brown says, confess a little bit of yourself to people around you and see what they do with it. If they trample on you, don't tell them anymore, okay? That's just wisdom, all right? But I mean, we need a few of those people in our lives that have shown that they are non-blinking and unconditional, that we can be wholeheartedly truthful with. And you begin to feel the freedom. You begin to feel the lightness when you begin living in truth, because all of the condemnation that you deserve and continue to deserve for lying has been taken care of. And now you don't need to lie anymore to get people to think a certain way of you if you're going to feel like you matter. That's been taken care of. That's done. Your deep longing for love and approval and acceptance has been fully and finally satisfied with Christ's words, "It is finished." You're in forever. You never have to worry about that again, ever. All of the approval you crave is yours. All of the love that you need belongs to you. because of what Jesus has done. Well, once you begin to grasp that, or more specifically, once that begins to grasp you, life begins to feel lighter. You begin to feel your freedom more acutely. You begin living in the light of truth because you don't need to lie anymore. Jesus became a liar so that we as liars could begin living in the truth.